we're in a cynical age. We're in an age of disenchantment. We are in an age where it's more and more common just not to trust anything, not to trust anything you see or hear. And if you're, if something is making you feel a certain way, then you're just being manipulated. And I know because I'm a part of all of that, uh, I accept, that that's the age that we're living in. And I know that there are reasons for believing the way that we believe, the way that I often believe, the approach that I often take to what I hear on the news when I watch the news, which is rare. Um, it's that's the age we're living in. That's the time we're living in. Uh, it's the state of things among those of us who see ourselves as discerning. Uh, you know, and there's a lot out there. There's a lot out there that is sheer uh, propaganda, that is intellectually dishonest, that is just meant to, um, you know, drag the tears from our tear ducts, and get us to feel a certain way at a certain time. Just to pull the puppet strings and all that, and I commend all of that. I commend seeing things um, in that kind of perspective. The problem though is, I think that it can lead just to dead ends often, because you have to take some things on faith, because you don't know, you can't verify everything that you see or hear, and anything you see on television might be fake. It might just be done with a green screen behind you. Any act that has been any atrocity that's been committed might just be uh, showbiz, might just be special effects. And so I know that there's always going to be there's always going to be a negative response. There's always going to be something nagging at you if you ever assert anything positive. And by positive, I don't just mean positive like happy or optimistic or anything like that, but just anytime you positively say, I believe that X happened, I believe that Y is real, I believe that person Z is being sincere, and isn't just trying to yank at my heartstrings and yank at my tear ducts and get me to believe things that will, bring the world to the place where the elites, the controllers, really want it to go. And again, I'm one to talk, right? Because I'm somebody I'm in that realm a whole lot myself, and I think it's good to be discerning. But I think there's a point at which you can not be too discerning. I won't put it that way. Where there's a point at which you I'll say it like this: if you're a believer, if you have faith, whether it's Christian or some other kind of faith, whether you're Catholic or Orthodox or Protestant or something else, if you believe in transcendence, if you believe that there is uh, an intelligence that shapes our efforts, rough hew them as we will. I just misquoted Hamlet. The Hamlet quote goes something like that, but I got it a little wrong there. But it's from Act 5, I remember that much. Um, yeah, so at some at some point, if you believe in God, then you've got then if you believe in providence, then you believe that by definition, if you have faith, that means that the deep state and the darkness of the principalities, powers, thrones, and dominions, and the demonic forces that control things, those are not all there is. As powerful as they are, as influential as they are not all there is. Now, you could have the point of view of God favored by like the Gnostic types, where you just say, well, God's got nothing to do with this world. Everything we see, hear, touch, taste, and feel in this world is evil and false. And in order to get to God, we have to somehow get past this material world and enter a purer realm. This is also called Neoplatonism. The realm of the forms and so forth. Not to get too deep here or anything like that. Not that I can get that deep, but I'm just saying, that there's that way of looking at it. But Christianity is not that way, okay? And I'm not demanding everybody out there have a Christian point of view, but I'm just saying the point of view that is most prevalent in Western culture is Christianity in one form or another, Catholic or Protestant. And Christianity does not see it that way. Christianity sees God working through the world. Christianity sees that the world was created by God, and that though evil has one dominion to a certain extent, to a certain point, that the real creator, the true ruler, the one who's truly sovereign over this world, is God. So when I say what I'm about to say, I don't know. Just give it a thought. Give what I'm saying at least some consideration before just thinking to yourself, no, it's false. It's another, it's just another form of the evil or the matrix or whatever it is, the power elite, just trying to trick us to go down a certain route. All right, I'm talking about specifically Erika Kirk and the speech that she gave yesterday at her husband's commemoration / funeral before thousands of people in Glendale, Arizona, at the football stadium there. I have to say, there's a lot of things about the event that I thought were tacky and kind of overblown and a little too showbiz. And I don't object to the event itself at all. The way some people were saying, well, why does Charlie Kirk get so much fanfare when there's, people carp and complain and bitch and whine and and they come with their whataboutisms so often on the internet. It's so tiresome. But look, you've got a public figure. A public figure dies. When a public figure dies, it's customary for that public figure to have a public memorial. So that's why they did this thing for Charlie Kirk, okay? And yeah, I didn't like the little fireworks shooting up or whatever it was. I didn't watch the whole thing, but you know, I was flipping back and forth, tuning in every now and then. I didn't like the, you know, like the you know, the little, they're not fireworks, but I don't know. They looked like it looked like little sparks flying up, you know, to add to the grandeur of the event or something. I just thought that was misplaced. I didn't think we needed to have, you know, all this all this fanfare. You know, it could have been more. I would have wanted something more stark and sober, instead of you know, looking like a Super Bowl halftime show. But putting that aside, when Erika Kirk took the stage, and those stupid flames, you know, or whatever, started flying up, and she was standing there behind the podium with an expression on her face of just extreme forlorn sadness, looking like she would just rather be anywhere else but here. She didn't want to be talking to America right now. She lost the love of her life, you know, just 11 days prior, totally unexpectedly. She lost him as a young man, a young, vital man, you know, in the prime of his youth. And now she's a widow and has two little kids to raise all on her own. And, you know, she wants to, I don't know where she wants to be, but it's not, she doesn't want to be all dressed up, and giving a speech to a stadium full of people, and you know, millions of people watching on the internet and on television. That's not what Erika Kirk was wanting to do at that moment. I could tell by the look on her face that was not where she wanted to be at all. But then she walks to the microphone, and some of y'all are going to say, "Simp, Eric, you're just simping for Erika." Can see that now. There's so many, like, anytime you want to be sincere, that's the problem. Anytime you want to say, I think something real is and profound is happening here, there are just 1,000 you know, accusations that people spring forth with. But I'm going to go ahead and go forward with what I have to say. And I have to give Taylor Marshall credit. He recorded a video. His video is titled something like "Erika Kirk Just Ended Feminism." You know, and that's sort of one of those titles that's meant to be eye-catching and everything, and it's a little overblown. But I commend Taylor Marshall for addressing this topic, because I felt a lot of the same way that he felt watching her speech. Not that she was ending feminism per se, but that she was able, over the course of her speech, to strike just the right tone, you know, remembrance of her husband, you know, and while she's got to be, this is a moment when she's got to be battling with God, you know, on some level, you just can't help it. You know, no matter how devout you are, when something like this happens to you, um, you have a hard time dealing with, you know, why on earth did God, how did you allow this to, how could you allow this to happen? Um, I'm completely bereft right now. I just don't want to go on. I can't go on without the man that I loved, uh, with the man that I love being taken from me so suddenly with no intimation. You know, that's the thing. That's another interesting thing about about the event, about about Charlie Kirk's assassination, is sometimes you hear about a famous assassination, and there's some you get the impression there's somewhere a whisper or an intimation that, oh, he sees that it's coming. Like, they say that when Lincoln left to go to the Ford Theater, he said goodbye to his servants instead of good night, and that people thought that was peculiar. This is just something I've heard. There have been other things like that, but but Charlie Kirk didn't seem to think anything was gonna happen to him on that day. You see the video of him riding in his car, riding up to the event, and seeing how many people are there, saying, "Wow, look at that crowd." You know, for him, it's going to be another day, another fun day of doing what he loves to do. And there was no intimation that this was coming. And sometimes things happen that way. We don't know. No man knows the day or the hour. But she got up there behind that microphone at this event that she didn't. I mean, I know that she wanted to honor Charlie. I know that she would have, walked through fire to do that. But her inclination at that moment was not to want to be there. You could tell by the look on her face. Watch the speech. I'll try to remember to post it below. But then for her to have to find the kind of poise that she had, and to say the kind of things that she said, you know, and to say, here's, you know, what for as far as men go, you know, be a leader for your wife, but being leading a family is not being a dictator, and it doesn't mean your wife is your servant or your slave, or anything like that. And you know how women should, like she was talking about, giving advice and counsel to young people who are trying to get, because everything's been falling apart, and so many young people just don't have anything to look towards when it comes to what marriage is, what marriage should be, why marriage is a good thing, why marriage is worthwhile. You know, it's hard enough for me to say something like that with all the MGTOWs out there, to say that I still believe in traditional marriage and, you know, still think it's a good thing. But she put this all forth very eloquently, and talked about the importance of faith, and talked about Jesus Christ. I mean, it was so it was so Christ-centric. You know, I just loved how this is sort of a cheap thrill. But I kind of like how it must have given like the secular humanist out there the heebie-jeebies. Oh, she's talking about Jesus. Oh, how inappropriate. I'm sure she's been raked over the coals for that. I mean, this poor woman who just lost her husband, you know, is getting death threats from leftists, from crazy leftists, and then people on the right are saying are also criticizing her for this, that, and the other thing. Leave Erika alone. I know I'm simping out, aren't I? But you know, I do think people should leave her the hell alone. Because what moved me the most about the speech was what she said at the end. She talked about how Charlie felt a particular need among young people, and especially among young men, whom she called lost boys, and that he spent a lot of his ministry, or whatever it would be called, trying to reach young men who are struggling. You know, she acknowledged whatever it's called, the male loneliness epidemic, you know, whatever the hell we want to call it. She talked about that, and talked about how Charlie was there to address. He felt a special need, or he felt something, you know, in his heart. He really wanted to reach these lost boys. And then she made the connection. She's, you know, just that the young man who is accused of firing the bullet that killed her husband. Again, I know. You're gonna say, no, Mossad did it. This picture shows that there's from the bullet had to go from this angle and blah blah blah. Okay, just put all that aside for now. All right. Erika clearly believes the official story. She believes that Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger, and that he fired the bullet that killed her husband. All right, just deal with that. Put your skepticism away, and your what have you. But just stick with the idea here that she's relating. All right. Even if Tyler Robinson, this is the point that I made in my recent Substack article, even if Tyler Robinson was a patsy is still somebody who has some relation to the conspiracy that happens. Just like if Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy, he was somebody who, you know, had some kind of involvement with, you know, these intelligence agencies, helping them out. He went to Russia as some kind of spy, then came back with a Russian wife, and was doing all this stuff, but was secretly, you know, still working for the FBI or the CIA in some capacity, and then maybe helped, you know, had something to do with the conspiracy that formed in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, but only found out at the end that he was the man they were going to pin it all on. He was going to be the patsy, right? All right. So if Tyler Robinson is the patsy, that means he has something to do with this whole thing. Maybe he pulled the trigger, but maybe he was mentored into pulling the trigger. Maybe there were other gunmen. I don't know. That's not germane to the point that I'm making here, and it's a part of the impediment to talking about what I think needs to be talked about here. What Erika Kirk was saying was brilliant. She made the connection. She saw that Tyler Robinson was one of these lost boys. And he was. You know, everything that you read about this kid. I mean, I know he's an old. I know he's 22 years old. I can't help but think of him as still as a kid, more or less. He looks like a kid. You know, he and I write about that also in my Substack article. Maybe I'll post that in the box below as well in the description. But she says he reached out to young men like him, like the young man who killed him, and then she said, you know, and it was really a struggle to say this, but she said after that, you know, Jesus died on the cross and said, when he was being put to death, he said, "Father, forgive them; they know not what they do." And that young man who killed my husband, I forgive him. And, you know, and then it was such a beautiful moment, I thought. A beautiful moment. But then you go online and getting, you know, well, I really haven't done this, but my impression is that you go online, people on the right are going to say, forgiveness. Why do we have to forgive our enemies? That's what's gotten us where we're at. We need to start hating our enemies and not forgiving them. And look, first of all, you know, if it helps this widow deal with what she's dealing with right now, if it helps her, if forgiving her husband's killer helps her, then that's between her and God, and that's nobody's business. And I don't think anybody else. I don't think it's within any of our purview to tell her she can't do that, or to grouse and complain about her doing that. You know, you can't go around, if you go around just feeling angry and bitter with hatred in your heart, which she must have towards the man who killed her husband. Forgiveness is a letting go of all that. It's a letting go. Forgiving her husband's killer does not mean that her husband's killer shouldn't face justice. You know, shouldn't face consequences. It does not mean that she doesn't hold him responsible for what he did. It just means that she forgives him. The same way that Jesus forgave the people who killed him. That was the connection that she drew in her speech. And it was brilliant. It was a brilliant connection, because Tyler Robinson, you know, like it or not, was the kind of young man who was lost. And he was the kind of young man who Charlie Kirk wanted to help reach, and offer counsel to. And instead, you know, he was shot. But the way forward, you know, has got to be through justice, but there's also forgiveness. And some people said, well, you know, forgiveness. You're only supposed to forgive when the person who sinned against you asks you for forgiveness. All right, technically speaking, you know, Tyler Robinson hasn't reached out to Erika Kirk that we know of and asked her for forgiveness. But nevertheless, like, to see her forgiveness as some sign of weakness or some sign of, it's just so, it's so annoying to me that people would see it that way. That people would see this heartbroken widow give this beautiful speech and end it on such a note as that, which it brought tears to many, and it brought tears to my eyes. And she says it like, well, I forgive him, like, not like I want to, not like I, if it were up to me, I wouldn't, but I know that it's best for me. I know that God wants me to, and I know that I have to for my own well-being. And so in conclusion, I don't know, whether this speech ended feminism, as Taylor Marshall claims, but it was a beautifully constructed speech, and it was it hit all the right marks as far as talking about marriage, talking about men's role in marriage, talking about women's role in marriage, and I don't know, watch it and I feel the way you want to feel, but for me, it's one of the greatest speeches I've heard in a long time, and it'll stay with me. It'll stay with me probably for the rest of my life. That's all. Thanks for watching.